Chapter 5, A Pact Fulfilled. The pale light danced violently, covering Erlem village, crimson from blood and flame, with its twinkle. The frigid air spawned fine fragments of ice, reflecting the light to create a fantastic sight, a phenomenon known as diamond dust, robbed of its beauty by the reality of the tragedy beneath it. Enough, I will tolerate no more violence from you. The beautiful voice cut through that surreal scene like light through a clear piece of glass. The battlefield was dominated by that voice, clear as a bell, and everyone's eyes were stolen by the girl who appeared upon it. Her long, silver hair flapped in a warm wind. Her violet eyes were imbued with a powerful will. Her beauty was so great that none who witnessed it could ever forget. Her outward appearance was enough to draw the eyes of others several times over. However, in that instant, her appearance was not why she had stolen the gazes of all present. Everyone's eyes had been stolen for no reason beyond the overwhelming awe of her presence. The sound of steel against steel, the cries of anger and sadness, and even the flames burning homes fell into silence, seemingly holding their breath. In such a world, the silver-haired girl Emilia quietly gazed at her foe. Emilia, when Subaru put her name on his lips, all of his complicated feelings enveloped him. Of course it had come to this. There was a battle raging on the mansion's doorstep. Villagers were evacuating to the mansion one after another. Someone was fighting to protect her. There was no way she would stay quietly shut in. Emilia's eyes contained sorrow and enmity toward the witch cult that had created the field of battle. Step back, villain. I won't let you do such terrible things. Ah, how can this be? Identifying the madman standing in the square as her enemy, Emilia pricked him with a stern tone of voice. However, the madman was hardly thrown off by that voice. His blood-smeared face registered surprise before beaming with delight. Sloth twisted his body, stretched both hands toward Emilia, and continued to smile as he shouted. Ah! What a fortuitous, wonderful day. Such marvelous fate. To think such a wondrous opportunity would come to fruition. Truly, the living image. Never, amid these repeated trials, did I believe I would have the chance to come across a vessel of such magnitude. What are you saying? So deeply moved was the fifth sloth that he wept, a flood of tears pouring out of him. Seeing the madman's out-of-place tears, Emilia raised her eyebrows, bewilderment plain on her face. Oh, witch, the beacon of love that guides me. The madman stumbled forward, narrowing the range between himself and Emilia. Perhaps her reaction was part of what stirred him so deeply. With the distance counting down to ruin, Emilia turned a palm toward him. Don't move. I won't warn you again. Emilia kept her palm thrust out, making the statement as the madman stepped closer. However, her call for him to halt never reached the madman's ears. He took one step, then another, narrowing the distance this time. Or the next. Someday, I shall. I told you, don't move. As she had said, this time was not another warning. She coldly switched from an ultimatum to an implementation of force. The light wildly dancing in the sky cracked open, and a surge of mana froze water droplets in the atmosphere. This created a total of 4 sharp, icy spears, and these she launched in an instant. The chill of overwhelming death was merciless. A single blow would sever the thread of life without fail. A being impaled with a solid blow would have his flesh dyed white, frozen down to the soul to become an icy statue. However, no hesitation, no pity, no mercy. Truly a diligent decision. Aren't they your allies? The madman energetically laughed beside the witch cultists now frozen beside him, having shielded him with their bodies. The sight made Emilia uncomprehendingly furrow her brow. Responding to her doubts, the madman tilted his head at a 90-degree angle, stretching an evil hand to a frozen subordinate, shattering him. They are disciples. Furthermore, my fingers. However, before the vessel, these things bear no meaning. It is the same even for me. Right now, no. My will, my reason for existence. All of it, unto you. Unto you. However, that is not where it must end. To Emilia, aghast at his madness, the madman opened his eyes wide and raised a bloody finger. He trained the crushed fingertip on Emilia, or, more precisely, Emilia's left shoulder. Atop her slender shoulder, a little cat spirit was nestled against her silver hair. It was to this being that Sloth turned his hated spirit, spiriet. Diminutive in stature, knowing neither love nor righteousness. Unaware of just how grave a crime it is to cuddle up to the vessel. Ignorant, in other words, sinful. What blasphemy! Sloth vented excessive rage and hatred toward Puck. However, when the madman addressed him with a torrent of enmity, Puck trained cruel eyes upon him. It was an expression unimaginable on the spirit that had been so gentle and carefree daily. No, Subaru knew that look, what Puck looked like with bloodlust honed to a tip. Subaru knew the mighty power resting inside that tiny body, for he had experienced it for himself. Unfortunately, being with her is the reason for my existence. I do not need anyone's permission, nor do I intend to seek it. Besides, you're the unpleasant one here. Both were set in their ways, making the hatred they turned toward each other all the clearer. The madman had rebuked Puck with fierce emotion. Puck responded to the madman's disgust with scorn. At that rate, the slightest touch would set them off, and the clash between two beings of immense power would truly begin. Wait, you're the one who needs to wait, Subaru. Settle down. Now, when Subaru tried to intervene on the brink of hostilities, someone suddenly tugged him back by his sleeve. The force took Subaru by surprise. Ferris, who'd appeared at some point, was the one pulling his sleeve. Ferris, still wearing the tattered mantle from earlier, stroked a heavily wounded Patlash as he sighed at Subaru. Subaru, she's terribly wounded, and so are you. You need absolute rest. That's an order, meow. Like this is the time. I can't just make Emilia fight that. It was Ram and I who decided to call Lady Emilia. Trust her a little, okay? With a stop put to his nervous feet, Subaru grimaced at Ferris's words. In response to the perplexed Subaru, Ferris closed one eye and said, "Trust that the person you want to protect isn't only fit to stand back and watch." Considering the harsh exchange just before, the battle began in eerie silence. The walls of icy mist Emilia had scattered around her were smashed as she leaped heavily backward. Just then, the ground where she had stood until a moment before exploded. She blinked at the clumps of excavated dirt. So you really can't see them at all. This needs extra attention. Puck whispered from atop Emilia's shoulder. She straightened herself out as she lightly touched down on the tips of her toes. The invisible blow wielded by the madman, as Ferris had informed her beforehand, Emilia's eyes could not catch sight of the fists. But she had ways to defend herself even without seeing them. She surrounded herself with a body of icy mist, dodging when she sensed outside intrusion. Puck had suggested the method, and with his capabilities, it was far from impossible to pull off. "I'll get close and hit him right away." As Emilia murmured, the ground tapped by her tiptoes was being dyed white. Centered on Emilia, the frost covering the ground spread farther, turning it into frozen earth for a 20-yard radius around her in the blink of an eye. It was a familiar sensation under her soles. Influenced as she was by the forest she had been born and raised in, gliding on ice was second nature to her. Before my love, such petty moves, tricks, schemes, merely futile resistance. The man shouted at the gliding Emilia, reaching top velocity from the first step toward her. The next moment, he pressed on with an oppressive cry, ripping away the icy mist floating around her. But by the time the invisible arms broke through the mist, Emilia's body was nowhere to be found. Gliding over the ice, Emilia was running circles around the man to throw off his aim. He tried chasing and getting in front of her, but nothing he tried resulted in a hit. Freely dispersing ice over the ground, she could escape anywhere. And before the invisible arms could hit her, Emilia's reliable protector completed his encircling snare. "I understand you falling for my beloved daughter. I'm very proud of her. But no pests allowed. NN?" The instant Puck made this laid-back statement, thick walls of ice rose up, surrounding the man on four sides. His path of escape blocked, the man's eyes went wide with wonder, leaving him completely defenseless. Immediately, the icy walls let out a creak as they shot spikes from the surfaces within. There was nowhere to run, a lethal attack without any forewarning. Prey struck squarely would be impaled inside the walls, frozen to the last drop of its flowing blood, and shattered. It was an attack that embodied the innocent cruelty under Puck's adorable surface. But naive. Neva 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 vvv, yes. A bellow rose from inside the icy encirclement. The next instant, the icy walls broke into smithereens with a high-pitched sound. The ice turn shards twinkled as the man leaped out of them, unharmed. The instant he was showered in spikes, he created a wall of invisible force against the interior of the walls of ice. Unable to withstand the pressure from within, the icy walls had been smashed to pieces. That mere tricks could defeat me is absurd. A trial is not so easily, Iya. Qua. However, when the man, proud of his victory, trod across the ice, Emilia launched from her powerful glide into a flip. Emilia's kick, slipped in without a sound, drove into the man's defenseless solar plexus. The speed and force of the unexpected kick were of sufficient power to lightly blow the man off his feet. This time, Emilia proceeded to beat the man to where he was due to fall and deploy her magical energy, making icy flowers bloom, but the spectacle she witnessed made her doubt her own eyes. Tracing an arc, the man she had knocked away halted in midair, flying up in another direction. The movement was unnatural, as if something had caught him out of thin air before hurling him in another direction. Using it like that, the repudiation of thought is the essence of sloth. Apply. Redirect. Reappropriate further. When the man, dancing in the sky, reached an arm toward her, Emilia instantly formed a pillar of ice, driving it toward her opponent. But as the icy pillar flew toward the man, it struck something and shattered, failing to reach him. In contrast, with the oppressive force coming from the man undiminished, Emilia glided across the ground, moving forward, and proceeded to use the momentum from her glide to sail into the air. With both rising into midair, Emilia and the man exchanged glances. Madness met righteous indignation, and once again, it was Emilia who first went on the attack. The next thing she created were multiple icy discs that she pounded toward the man, sending them through the air in erratic curves. Stranded in midair, the man could not dodge the icy discs surrounding him above, below, left, and right. Yes. However, the man did evade the flying, icy discs, moving on naturally via the most absurd of methods. He bounced erratically in the sky, and though he was uncontrollably spun round and round, the man escaped the discs, shouting in delight. What? This is love. When the creepy movements made even Emilia exclaim, the man gave a reply that was not an answer. His ferocious desire to return the favor transmuted into stabbing bloodlust that made goosebumps stand on Emilia's pale flesh. The man's combativeness was more than a match for her wariness. He poured his hostility into the hands he powerfully brought together. Be baptized by her favor, the symbol of my love. Prepare to undergo the trial. When Emilia felt the icy mist being destroyed, her face stiffened for the first time in the battle. That was the result of detecting the invisible menace unleashed upon her from all sides, denying her any avenue of escape. She was in the sky, unable to move freely. The difficult-to-evade blow was truly retribution for the earlier attack. And then the center of Emilia's chest was impaled, brutally run through. The destructive power gouged out her breasts, punching right through her chest. The man's eyes bulged at the results, the wound so deep that he could see through to the other side. This is the result of her favor. The fruit of my love. The proof that the witch responds to my love. But there is no cause for despair. Even if what is within is lost, the vessel is ours to Iya. Kawa. The man's declaration of victory was interrupted by a kick. The blow from behind sent his body flying. Beyond the sheer force of the kick to the man's blind spot, completely unexpected from his point of view, he had no idea what had happened. Before him was Emilia, with Puck riding on her shoulder, clapping his paws with no hint of sarcasm. That instant, the ice statue of Emilia pierced through the chest, shattered into dust. Even the light had been fine-tuned to create a false Emilia that looked just like the real thing. That's no good, looking away in the middle of a fight, you'll get sucker punched, you know? The man she had kicked into the sky, spinning round and round, had no time to get his bearings. He'd fallen for Puck's fake Emilia hook, line, and sinker, exposing his defenseless back. And with that setting the stage, Emilia couldn't miss. You won't get away this time. The man was hurtling downward from the kick when his arms and legs were buried in manacles of ice. He was no longer able to move, no longer able to resist, and Emilia's blow was already prepared in full. The man slammed into the ground, his frozen limbs pinned his body there. From midair, Emilia proceeded to fall straight down, aimed right at the man's torso. The man's eyes widened as the distance narrowed. Then he laughed at the fast-approaching Emilia. "Ah! This is truly diligent. Thank you, now die properly." Descending straight down, Emilia thrust the heel of her palm into the laughing man's torso. The force made his bones creak. The man let out a painful cry, stunned by the blow. But the cry lasted for only an instant. The next instant, the place touched by her palm began to freeze over. Not only his limbs but the man's entire body was dyed white, freezing to its core. Unable to even raise a death cry, the man became part of an ice flower in full bloom and perished. That was how the battle between Emilia and the man was decided. Watching the outcome of the battle, Subaru was rooted to the spot, unable to make a sound. Overwhelming was insufficient to express it. From start to finish, Emilia had soundly engaged the enemy, splendidly succeeding in striking down the final sloth. "You see? It's just like I said, meow." In place of the dumbstruck Subaru, Ferris, standing beside him, expressed admiration for Emilia's battle. His basic healing magic had closed up the land dragon's wounds, now he reached a hand out to heal Subaru's. The touch of his slender fingers made Subaru aware of the pain of his own wounds once more. He had countless bumps and scrapes all over his body, in particular, the right side of his body really hurt. He'd taken a hard hit when he and Patlash had been bowled over in the forest. "Ah, Sabawo, doesn't this really hurt? Your ankle, your shoulder, where's your bedside manner? Put my mind on the parts that don't hurt or something. Ah, this might be pretty bad. You might die from it, meow." When Subaru made a grandiose show of pain, Ferris teasingly poked his ribs. When his teasing hand withdrew, Subaru sighed as he looked toward Emilia once more. It was unclear what Emilia felt concerning the madman's death. But there was a trickle on her pale cheek. Subaru saw a shining tear rolling down it. It must have pained her spirit to take another person's life. If so, that was Subaru Natsuki's sin. It was his powerlessness that had drawn Emilia and the cult together. However, Emilia looked surprised at the rolling tear on her face, quickly wiping it off. Perhaps the spirit on her shoulder had said something to her, for Emilia knit her brows with a conflicted look. She didn't even know why she'd shed a tear. That was how it looked to Subaru. As Subaru watched Emilia, he suddenly noticed deep emotions strangely stirring in his chest. The multiple thoughts toward her somehow seemed like separate, foreign emotions. For some mysterious reason, he had a deep urge to scratch his brain. It was almost as if they're all so hasty. Ferris, hearing battle cries in the distance from all over the village, gave a slightly pained smile as he spoke. Now that Emilia had struck down the final sloth, the battle was nearing its conclusion. The witch cultists being fought in every corner of the village had largely been slain, and cries of victory filled the sky. The Iron Fangs were particularly boisterous, but it was not only in the beast people that victory bubbled to the surface. The knights who had fought and survived raised their swords, letting up shouts of their own. To Ferris, a healer, the real battle had now begun, for the number of casualties, and the number of casualties who could be returned to health, rested upon his skill. Of course, pouring cold water on his comrades when they boiled with victory was the one thing he could not do, but Ferris. Yes, Ferry at your service, old man Will? When addressed, Ferris turned around with a light-hearted greeting, but was taken aback at who the speaker was. Behind him was Wilhelm, breathing raggedly as he dragged his half-bloodied body around. The heavy burns and countless lacerations on him truly justified the word half alive. Wait You can't walk around with those wounds. If I don't lay you down and heal you right now, I can wait. More importantly, there is something crucial I must say. You might die, you know? Don't tell me it's more important than Urel. Even so, I must speak it now. Where is Sir Subaru? In contrast to his level of injury, Wilhelm's voice was filled with vigor and drive. He would have fallen on the spot, save for sheer will. Both surprised and exasperated at the fact, Ferris immediately looked back and said, Sabawo? He's right he ought to have been rooted to the spot, hemming and hawing over what to say to Amelia. And yet, Sabawo? When Ferris looked back, Subaru Natsuki was nowhere his eyes could see. Clutching his head, he barreled through the thickets, running deeper and deeper into the forest. He had to get as far as he could manage, as far as was humanly possible, far from the village, far from the square, far from his friends, and far from Amelia. Ha! Short of breath, he earnestly, desperately ran across the poor footing of the forest. Sweat was in his eyes, and his heart hurt as if it would leap out of his mouth, but he couldn't be bothered to care. The image of a silver-haired girl turned away from him was burned into the back of his eyelids. She would turn, their eyes would meet, and they would speak words of reunion, but that was a moment he could accept no longer. It was not that he was ashamed to meet her face, nor was it timidity of any kind. He had a different reason. A terrible, abominable reason. Subaru, where are you going? Subaru had headed toward the uninhabited depths of the forest, and yet someone had called out to him even so. He stopped, his eyes turned back, watching the slender figure with wonder. He was a handsome young man, with short, light purple hair and a look of elegance and refinement, Julius Julius. Julius, wiping his blood-stained uniform with a sleeve, put a hand against a large tree beside him as he gazed at Subaru. I am glad that you are safe, but what happened? I hear cries of victory from the village. If you are here like this, that sloth must have been slain. And yet, why are you here? If something troubles you, please, speak of it. After all that, we are comrades through thick and thin. Hand-combing his disheveled hair, Julius spoke patiently to the stiff-faced Subaru. Just as he'd said, Subaru could still hear their comrades' voices from the direction of the village. They were still close enough that he could hear them, even though he needed to be farther, much farther away. After all, if he didn't get farther away, Subaru? Julius knit his brows at Subaru's persisting silence, saying nothing. Sensing that something was off, the knight took a step forward, approaching with concern in his eyes. It was the look of concern one gave the ill or wounded. However, it was not his body that was the problem. Ferris's no-frills healing let him move without any difficulty. That was why he was using that flesh to the fullest. But Julius, get away but it is too late. Desperately, Subaru resisted with all his body and soul, managing to partially hold it back. But even the fragmented, cut-off words made the knight instantly put distance between them to avoid the risk. Subaru raised an arm, swinging it in the air, and tilted his head in dissatisfaction at a 90-degree angle, straight to the side. A fine reaction, yes. Though this flesh resists, you evaded well. You truly are a diligent person. All the greater the pity. I had a bad feeling when I was suddenly expelled from Subaru's body. On one knee, cavalry saber drawn, Julius murmured with frustration. Complex emotions swirled in his yellow eyes, anger, regret, and inexhaustible hostility and hesitation. Seeing the wavering of his eyes, Subaru squared his shoulders in approval. All the more promising. The way you are, you think, you waver, is all proof of your diligence. The only thing that sullied that was your base, filthy soul. Truly, it is he who has been sullied by something base and filthy. Namely, you mad hatred, and hatred mixed with righteous anger clashed as Julius and Subaru glared at each other, their fierce emotions at polar opposites. And then, Julius. Sabawu. With a great sound of running feet, a high-pitched voice intervened, riding through the trees. A jet-black land dragon appeared, kicking up a cloud of dirt, and riding on its back were Ferris and Wilhelm. Atop the dragon, Ferris's eyes widened as he saw Julius and Subaru facing off. Wilhelm leaped down from the dragon, standing at Julius's side. Then he turned to Subaru with a grave look in his eyes. Sir Julius, Sir Subaru, Master Wilhelm, that is not Subaru. Hearing Julius's hushed reply, Wilhelm radiated hostility, clenching his teeth enough to make them creak. The atmosphere tightened. Their faces contorted, Ferris's with worry, Julius's with righteous anger, Wilhelm's with fierce emotion. Subaru was the only one having a good time, clapping his hands as a crazed smile came over him. And then, now that you are assembled, allow me to reintroduce myself. I am the Archbishop of the 7 deadly sins entrusted with sloth. His head tilted at 90 degrees, Subaru opened the front of his jersey, and the madman laughed grandly. Betelgeuse Romanicanti. Thus did he give his name. He'd been wrong. He'd been mistaken. Subaru had failed to grasp the most important thing about his enemy. He had been mistaken about the evilest, most important part of Betelgeuse Romanicanti. The witch cult's Archbishop of Sloth was not multiple beings bearing the titles of 10 fingers. It was a single spiritual entity named Betelgeuse, attaching itself to the flesh of others. Asterisk 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 truly fine. Truly a splendid body. It has been decades since flesh has felt so comfortable, the perfect resource for supplementing my lost fingers. How dare you? Get out of Sir Subaru's body right now, heretic. For what purpose, and with what right do you say such a thing? It is because you robbed me of my precious fingers that I must inhabit this body as a last resort. Wilhelm grasped Betelgeuse's face, bending his head back while yelling into it. But the madman responded with Subaru's face and Subaru's voice and, for the pure enjoyment of it, scratched at his throat. The painful sight of gouged flesh and blood scattering mortified Julius and the others. Your qualifications are by no means poor. Unfortunately, you have engraved too many excess rituals into your flesh. This makes you fundamentally unsuitable to be my finger. Diligent old bones. Your flesh, too, is unsuited to be my finger. Even if I must praise the spirit, your flesh is an unsuitable vessel for love. Ah, how tragic. To Ferris, and then Wilhelm, Betelgeuse pointed his finger and shook his head. They did not understand the finer details of what his declarations meant. But putting aside that he could mean nothing good, they understood that they were unsuitable in his eyes. And then, and above all else, a spirit user. You are the most incompatible of all. The hindrance of your impurity aside, you would become a fine finger of mine. Is this answer enough? Unfortunately, I shall not cast the flowers aside, even if they were to abandon me. Perhaps a madman like you cannot understand such feelings. Julius responded to that extraordinary malice with a reply of utmost enmity. The contents thereof made Betelgeuse's eyes go wide. The next moment, he slapped his knees, seized by laughter. Madman! Truly, that is the proper term. Yes, I am crazy for love. Love, undaunted love, mementos of love, affectionate love, kind love, warm love, benevolent love, thirst for love, reverent love, love of family, climactic love, private love, pure love, cherished love, gushing love, filial love, trusting love, deep love, virtuous love, sensual love, bitter love, profound love, charitable love, spiteful love, faithful love, gracious love, humble love, biased love, delusional love, fraternal love, romantic love, 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 love. Love, 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 love. Damned fool, as Betelgeuse made his insanity clear, Julius focused his hostility at him while pleading to Subaru's soul. Subaru. Open your eyes. You are too good to be taken over by a madman like. It is futile. This flesh is already under the control of my mind. Though it attempts to resist, it is fruitless, meaningless. This body is already my finger. No one is speaking to you. Subaru, think. What did you come back for? Why do you fight? Did you not shout those very words to me? While disparaging Betelgeuse, Julius wrapped his 6-colored spirits around his cavalry saber, raising it high. The powerful, rainbow-like light repelled the darkness in the forest, its radiance dazzling the eyes for a brief moment. This created a faint gap in Betelgeuse's thoughts, which had completely smothered Subaru's to that point. And then, what is this? What are? As if you need it spelled out, you stupid jerk. The madman opened his eyes in shock, rocked back by the torrent of emotions surging up from within. Halting as they were, the words that trickled out of his mouth were a glimpse of the mind of the owner of that flesh. In short order, Betelgeuse's look of shock was forced back, replaced from beneath by the look of Subaru breathing painfully. The transformation made Julius and the others raise their voices, seeing a glimmer of hope. Subaru. Subaru. Sir Subaru. I am Betelgeuse Romanicanti. Shut the hell up, I'm Subaru Natsuki. Push back, push back. Bury everything in the dark dregs of the mind. You are merely mumbling in my ears, you will soon falter. Do you really think you can defeat the likes of me by strength of will? With bluff, a show of pretense, he tried to seize back his own mind. If he didn't, he was on the brink of surrendering to the urge to destroy himself that very moment. Or perhaps of wanting the destructive arms to stretch from his shadow and lay waste to everything around him. Was that urge a darkness that enveloped Betelgeuse around the clock? If so, he could, on one level, understand and sympathize with the madman's aberrant actions to date. Immersed in such madness, he injured himself to maintain his sanity. If he was constantly coated in such powerful madness, small wonder he'd become mentally unbalanced. Was this the world as Betelgeuse saw it? I do not seek your understanding. Those were the first words Betelgeuse spoke when he broke past Subaru's resistance. The voice that had spoken such madness, such crazed delight, such fury, now spoke with a mind that was indifferent, unmoved. It was a darkness that chilled Subaru to the bone more than any of his madness ever had. And then he understood he couldn't let this darkness come to the surface. Do it, Julius. With Betelgeuse's resistance slackening, he'd settle it while he was still in control. For that purpose, Subaru chose the method most likely to succeed. That sword held the greatest possibility for beating Betelgeuse. When addressed, Julius was aghast, his eyes widened, and his lips quivered. What are you saying? Sorry, but it's only a matter of time. If you don't stop me now, we can't win, so before that happens, no. Subaru, you must reconsider. I am both a knight and a spirit mage, a spirit knight who swore to aid you in your objective. I cannot break that oath now. You swore with me to protect Emilia. Pretty sick of me, I know. The reply Subaru wrung out of himself made Julius grimace in anguish. He'd always maintained his elegance and composure. With that demeanor to go on, Subaru was a little surprised at the expression he was making. Subaru had never dreamed that he'd hesitate after coming this far. And you had something to speak to me about later. Sorry. But no can do. He remembered the words spoken the instant they'd prayed for each other's good fortune in battle at the height of the fight with Sloth. He should have cleared the air before that, but in the end, after dragging his feet, he hadn't said it in time. Wilhelm, don't do anything rash, I pushed myself to reach this point. I absolutely will not accept an end like Wilhelm was heavily wounded, having delayed treatment for his injuries to rush over with all haste. Subaru could only praise the sword devil, forcing a body that should not to move through willpower alone, but this darkness could not be swept away by skill with the sword. Subaru gave a momentary, limp smile before leaving things in the hands of the last person. Ferris, please. You can hate me for this, Subaru, I hate me, too. At Subaru's words, Ferris, the person there who most hated the cruelty of life and death, nodded. He seemed to somehow have known he would be called upon. With tears in his eyes, he pointed a finger at Subaru. The gesture triggered an abnormality in Subaru's core, namely, a scorching pain, as if his blood were being boiled, burning his entire body with unendurable heat. Gaaa. Hot. Hot. Hot, 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 hot. His throat was hot. His eyes were hot. His body was hot. His tongue was hot. His nose was hot. His hands were hot. His ears were hot. His feet were hot. His blood was hot. His brain was hot. His bones were hot. His soul was hot. His life was hot. Hot, hot, hot. His blood was literally boiling, his internal organs were simmering, and the high-temperature steam his brain gave off clouded his vision. From somewhere other than his melting ears, he heard the echo of a death cry that was not his own. One body was inhabited by two minds. Naturally, burning the body meant burning the mind of the madman with it. There was no escape. At this rate, that soul, trapped in its vessel, would be sent straight to the afterlife. He suffered, he writhed, he convulsed, and finally, his body could move no more. Betelgeuse could try his sore loser act again, but it wouldn't work this time. inside Subaru, his days were done. Ferris. Why? No one else could do it, right? This is what Subaru wanted. Even so, to inflict such pain on Sir Subaru like this. Do you think I wanted to? To use this power I have for Lady Crush's sake, that I promised to use to put her on the throne, like this. The voices of lament, regret, anger, sadness, they sounded so distant. Lacking the strength to even shift his head, Subaru silently apologized for forcing Ferris to stain his hands like this. With Julius hesitating, and Wilhelm beyond reach, Ferris was the only one he could count on. It was the same method he'd used to make Kitty faint inside the dragon carriage that later exploded. Subaru's body had been directly healed by Ferris, so Ferris could interfere with Subaru's mana without touching him. The result was plain. The power and suffering were beyond Subaru's expectations, almost enough to make him regret his choice. But those feelings were overshadowed by his guilt of forcing such a deed on Ferris. Ferris's power was the power to heal others. That was the source of Ferris's pride, his mission in life, and the part of himself he treasured above all else. Subaru had made him use that power in a terrible way. He just wished he could utter the word sorry. Lying on the ground, unable to move, Subaru felt something touching his face. His eyes felt like a haze, displaying nothing. But Subaru recognized the hard, grainy sensation from somewhere. It was not from Julius, nor from Ferris, nor from Wilhelm, but from someone else related to. With Subaru's life flickering like a candle in the wind, he felt Patlash, the jet-black landdragon, nestle close to mourn his passing. Probably, these were the top 4 on the list of people he'd caused trouble for. No, Emilia and Ram were missing from that list. And he was truly grateful neither of the two was there. Subaru. He sensed someone standing opposite Patlash, speaking with a forthright voice. He didn't even have to think about who it was. Full of determination, the voice could be none other than that of the finest of knights. After all, there was no knightly knight in that place save he. It was my inadequacy that forced you and Ferris into an unpalatable decision. I shall surely pay for this sin someday. Don't dwell on stupid stuff like that, was exactly what he didn't feel like saying. Dwell on it more and more, damn it. Don't you ever forget it. I won't ever forget. This pain, this powerlessness. For a moment, there was silence. However, that did not break the knight's resolve. Sensing the feeling of cold steel on his neck, Subaru let out his breath at the apparent fact that he would soon be sent on his way. Sir Subaru, I am very sorry. Lady Emilia will probably cry. The voices sounded distant and broken to him. Everything was vague, incomprehensible. There were promises. To never forget. To take something back. To definitely come again. It ends here? Absurd. I cannot, not like this. Right when I have found a suitable vessel. On the eve of the trial's completion. A finger. If I have a new vessel, I cannot be Destra. Shut up and go to hell. He fell to an unknown place far, far away. Somehow, he died again. He'd probably lost it all once more. He surrendered everything to the abyss. This was the familiar embrace of failure after he pathetically lost his life. Look back at the world. Look back at your failures. Don't forget. Don't forget. Do not forget. Ferris's tear-filled voice. Wilhelm's lament, shaking with regrets. Julius's resolve and remorse, so great he probably gnashes his teeth over it. Don't forget, ever. No matter how low you are, don't ever let go. Thus, another life came to an end. However, nonetheless, even so, Subaru Natsuki continued. Whatever happened, no matter where he came back, no matter how much suffering he carried with him, his struggle would not cease. He would repeat and do over, for that was what he swore. With a strike and a sound, everything plunged into darkness. And so it was interrupted. It was severed. And then, I love you. Together with that soft, gentle, fleeting, and cruel breath, Subaru Natsuki lost his life, and the world was born again once more.